Very excited to have this guest on. He works with Iconic. He's a content creator over there. I follow him on Twitter. He's dropping heavy bombs. He's in it. He's calling the shots. You know, there are people out there called black pills. I don't believe in black pills. I'm calling them cold data. They're cold data. They got the data and it's cold and they don't care. So I consider him to be one of them. Very honored to have back. Please welcome Richard Willet. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, thank you. It's been a couple of years since we spoke, but always following your work as I always do, and you guys and what you're doing over there. It's a mad world, but thank you for having me on. I really appreciate the your time.
Honor and a privilege, dude. Always a pleasure. For those who don't remember your appearance a couple years ago, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, I work with Iconic. So I started Iconic, which is kind of affiliated with David Icke, but it's really run by his son Jamie. And David, myself, Gaz, and a lady called Gina started it about 6 years ago. We knew each other just before then, but I've been doing this for about 15 years now. So I was doing that well before then. And I was doing a podcast, I think we called Glitch in the Code at the time. And then we got together 6 years ago, started the company ourselves. Jamie runs it, but we're all kind of on the board of it. And yeah, it's doing really well now. We don't take any sides, so we're non-partisan. So we don't, we kind of piss everyone off. But you find your audience in the middle there somewhere, which is never a big as audience is as if you're going to promote, a religion, as you guys know, or a philosophy or an ideology or a politician, especially, that. But we found our own little niche there, in the middle there somewhere. So yeah, we're good.
Well, I agree with that. I've always said this: you either want to go hard right or hard left. Down the middle, it doesn't make anybody happy, and it takes finding people who understand nuance to get that. I get that now with my comedy because yeah, I'm a conspiracy theorist. People always associate that with the right, but I'm an old school liberal, which is live and let live, leave me alone, don't hurt the kids, and you won't hear anything from me, and that doesn't make anybody happy. I put out this special. It's called Potty Mouth. Yeah, it's pretty dirty. And I got people like, oh God, why does it have to be this dirty? Well, that's why I think it's funny. It
Yeah.
makes me laugh. I've been doing it for 30 years. What is the issue here? But doesn't make the right happy, the far right, and doesn't make the far left happy. If you shoot either way, bang. And I've watched people do it, man. I go, dude, you gotta go one side or the other, and they just shoot hard to that way. And they can say the most ridiculous shit. And it's not even that they have to believe it as long as they're saying it. It's like Thomas Sowell's whole quote, in a land of it's basically with a population that demands perfection, only liars can thrive, right? It's like, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
butchered that one, but that's really the truth. I was watching this doc on Pee Wee Herman, and it's just like he couldn't get anything going doing him, so he came up with this character, and then he exploded. It's like you have to play this. You got to kind of put out this lie because that's what people expect. They expect perfection. They don't want flaws, even though they have 1,000 flaws. So yeah, I'm with you on that. So thanks for joining us, dude. Where do you want to begin?
Well, let's talk Epstein, shall we? Because that seems to be where every 101 things shoot off from. Epstein, and the latest thing I've been looking into is this George Church fella. Don't know if you've heard of him. George Church. He's spent a lot. He's funded by Epstein, and he's a microbiologist scientist, and he's looking into basically technology that would allow people to store data on their DNA. I don't know if you've heard of the guy. Colossal
What?
Biosciences. So this is a thing called Colossal Biosciences. So we'll go from there, really, because again, this could go 101 million ways. But Colossal Biosciences, George Church. Now, these are the guys that just de-extinct if the direwolf. They called this direwolf
Yes.
Romulus and Remus. Did you see them?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the guy who runs this company. So he has also been previously funded by Jeffrey Epstein. Now, some of his other research, he's able to store data, JavaScript, JPEGs, and text to the DNA, and the DNA using CRISPR-9 technology is able to be reinserted into the body. So my theory is, where do you think this compromat is stored? Where's the safest place you'd hide it if you didn't want anyone else to find it? You
In
might,
somebody's DNA.
you might stick it in your
What?
own DNA, wouldn't you? You stick it
Holy
in your own
shit.
DNA. And the whole point is, the whole joke they're having is that Ghislaine Maxwell's in a cell, and the bloody soft. What the? I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying that if you look to George Church, he funded. He's come up with this content, this technology, and he was funded by Jeffrey Epstein. That is true. I mean, he's come out and apologized for hanging out with Epstein.
I love that afterwards. That's my favorite. Ah, dude, I'm sorry. Even
Yeah.
though I took all the funding and did all this stuff, but
Yeah.
now afterwards, I'm super. It's like, get the fuck out of here.
And
Sorry.
this is after Epstein was also convicted in 2008. So this is like years later. So we've got that technology there. They're able to do
So
this.
hold on. Let me ask this. Do you even believe there's some Epstein files?
I believe if there are, they're inside Epstein. This is my theory, by the way. I
You think
believe,
the Epstein files are inside Epstein, the body, or
or
he's out there?
Epstein the body, but also it could be Ghislaine Maxwell. It could be some of these young women that he abused. There's much more going
Would
on here, and I'll tell you
That
why.
is insane,
It
dude.
is
so
insane, but but the technology is there to do this. I'm not saying it's been done, but as an investigative researcher, you would look into that line of inquiry. It gets even darker. Just quickly on the Remus and Romulus section. So this guy de-extincted the direwolf, funded by Epstein, called it Romulus and Remus. These were the mythical founders of Rome. They were raised by a she-wolf in the mythology. Now, just not that far from Epstein Islands is an island called St. Bart's. I'm sure you've heard of it. Diddy would like St. Bart's. Abramovich loves St. Bart's. The guy from Abercrombie and Fitch, who was done for trafficking young male models, loved St. Bart's. Now, also Elon Musk loves St. Bart's, and he conceived his 13th child on St. Bart's with that lady a few months back.
Unbelievable.
Guess what they named the child?
What?
Romulus.
Damn.
There's a
Now,
transhumanist agenda going on underneath these islands. I've looked into this for a few years now. I spoke to Juliet Bryant on the Daily, who's an Epstein survivor. She said she woke up paralyzed, naked on a laboratory table while she was at Zorro Ranch. Just putting that out there. This is something to
would you
this.
say, would you say that Epstein's dead, right, though? He's gone.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
would
see.
doubt
I don't
it.
think
I
your
don't know.
microphone's working. I think we're hearing you through your computer. Just so you know. That's crazy, dude. That is crazy. That they can store DNA. They can store files in your DNA. That is
Yeah,
the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I know, and it's true. And it's true. You just Google George Church DNA to data, and you'll find I've been able to do it. So this can be done. This guy is funded by Epstein. So also Epstein is funding Palantir, as we found out very recently. Not Palantir, sorry, Peter Thiel, who created Palantir, CIA
Yeah,
cover.
for $40 million.
$40 million. So they're all connected. They're all connected, and it's like this is mad, but it's two specific places we need to be looking at, in my opinion, is underneath Epstein Island and the surrounding islands, St. Bart, St. Thomas, those islands that all have submarine ports, by the way, and then under Zorro Ranch. And guess what else is in New Mexico? I know you
What?
know this 'cause you've been doing this for years. Well, Los Alamos National Laboratory, Dulce Base, Trementina site, which is the Church of Spiritual Technology for Scientology, the Trinity site. At the Trinity site, and I've done a video about this week, L. Ron Hubbard, Scientology, and Jack Parsons, who was a Crowley follower, tried to do the Babylon working ritual, which was to create the homunculus shell for the Moonchild of Crowley, which really is Rosemary's baby. This is deep stuff, and this is all the connections are there. Now, I'm not saying this happened, but they're all connected. They're all
Let's.
connected in
I.
Zorro Ranch, like New
So I think.
Mexico.
Hold on. So I don't want to jump too deep into your notes. I want to
Mhm.
take everything and go through them because it's so interesting. So we're jumping, but
Hmm.
I want to go. So you got us into Peter Thiel. That's been a
Hmm.
big, topic on the show lately. I don't feel like people, even though we've been talking about, I don't feel that the masses really are at all discussing it at all. So let's get into what you're talking about. And, obviously, you might not know this, but people listening, we just dropped an episode with Eddie Bravo discussing the riots. The video that I made on Joe Rogan's podcast from 2 years ago about the next thing is going to be
Yep.
the immigration riots. It's everybody's talking about. It's like fun and also very scary because you're like, okay, nobody knew about that clip, and now it's like everywhere. And then you're like, okay, what energy is that bringing in? It's very weird. You don't
Mm.
know. It's like it's like really fun to go under the radar, but then when you say something that's like that, you don't know who's seeing it and who's not happy about it.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
that I'm important or anything like that, but they may not like that. So let's get into your thoughts on the LA riots and what do you think's going on there?
Well, this leads back. No, and you were right. I've just seen that clip and shared it myself, and you were spot on in 2000 and was it 2023? I think
Yeah,
you did
yeah,
that clip, yeah.
yeah.
Spot on, obviously. So what we've got now, and no one's talking about this, and I've been poking the bear over at InfoWars to try and get them to talk about this. Why aren't they talking about the fact that Palantir has just been taken on by Trump? And then everyone had a like an uproar about it in our circles that look into this stuff that know what that is, that people are concerned. Suddenly we have these riots, and ICE have a $30 million, and it was signed in April, contract with Palantir to create something called the Immigration OS platform. What are the chances? Problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah,
Why are
yeah,
no one talking about this?
yeah. That's so right. I mean, it's right there in documents that they need this to happen. And this is what, you go back to Edward Griffin's capitalist conspiracy and it breaks it all down there. And within that movie, there he's talking about how there was like some government hearing, and they interviewed this communist agitator, some communist student. And he basically said these billionaires we're funding them to cause chaos. And
Mm,
that's it. So you need a problem reaction solution. It is getting, and I know I'm going to lose some people here, it is getting harder and harder to say, at least it's not Kamala Harris. It is. Now, I would say that most of the stuff you have going on with Trump would be happening, but you would add trans, fat, feminist, and BLM to it, which sucks. But now, what do we got? We got like you take out the trans, you take out the fat feminists, you take out the BLM, and you replace it with immigrants, Jewish tech overlords, and stuff like that. It's just getting harder and harder. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I didn't vote for any of the presidents, so I don't have any skin in the game, but it's getting harder and harder. And like when you study this, it's just like there's a big reaction to the Palantir thing, and then boom, this hits, funded by the Walmart heiress who like is pissed because of the tariffs, or that's the story that they're leading us into, and here we are. And there's a lot of people trying to call this out, and there's some like Mexican gangs out there that are kind of trying to kind of threaten people. And it's like, I'm never on the side of the state. The state is always the bad guy. The state wants a monopoly on violence. And so I'm never on their side. But I'm not saying that what you guys are doing is, I don't understand why you're doing it. I'm just saying you're being used to
mm.
cause chaos. The cops aren't stopping anything, they're just kind of containing it and allowing you to destroy your area. You're helping them flip them into 15-minute cities.
Yeah, you are. You're completely right. And what you're doing is you're providing the movie that they want. So you're acting out like the scenes that they need for their show reel to put it on the news to sell Palantir. That's what you do. So they're directors. They direct the audience. They direct the actors that don't even know they're acting in a play because they've got genuine concerns. And this is the issue. They're genuine concerns about immigration. There's genuine concerns about people being sent to other places where they shouldn't not be. And then there's genuine concerns people being in the country that should not be. These are genuine people with genuine concerns being manipulated by people that don't care about them. All they are is a number. And this number in this game of let's try and get people to accept this technocracy 15-minute and Palantir overlord, let's watch everyone. And this goes back to the smart grid. This goes back to the Internet of Bodies. This goes way deep into transhumanism. This is just part of it. Donald Trump is deeply involved with these people, deeply involved with the likes of Chabad Lubavitch, who are a messianic sect from Brooklyn, and I know you'll know about those guys. He's deeply involved with them. So is Netanyahu, and so is Putin. They're all involved with these guys,
Yes.
and they have a Kabbalah element to them that says that they need this transhumanist tech to see what they call Olam Haba, their world to come. Now, this is stuff that no one, no, I'm not saying no one's talked about because they are. A guy called Christopher John Biotis, you should get him on because he's fantastic with the Kabbalah. But this isn't about what you think it's about. And the fact that people are missing, purposely jumping over that Trump's massively involved with this. It is frustrating. I'm sure it's frustrating for you guys as much as it is for us.
No, it's absolutely insanity, and it's just it just becomes more and more obvious you're not going to be able to vote your way out of this, and I don't know what that means because they're all controlled at every level. Someone said the other day that Pizza Hut is involved with the globalization, like because they worked with the CIA and the CIA basically disabled Russia, destroying the USSR, and then Pizza Hut was able to walk in and just corner the market in all of Russia. I mean, it's like there's no good guys sometimes outside of like independent people like us who just are constantly battling shadow banning and all that stuff. It's like it's truly insane. It's truly insane, but it's like I just don't understand how people don't see this. And like last night on Twitter, and this means nothing to anybody, but I call for the resignation of Mayor Karen Bass. I was like, even if you don't believe that she is a part of this, and she is 100% a part of it, okay? On her watch, two insanely historic things have gone down that has burnt the city down. LA fires and then immigration. And these immigration riots, regardless of what you think she's involved, which she 100% is. If you study her past, she's 100% orchestrating all this shit. But if you want to believe she doesn't, she has nothing to do with it. It's still on her watch, and she should be gone. If this was a basketball team or a football team or whatever team you're talking about, they would call for the head coach's head. No one will put up with this shit. But because Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass bake into their plans the fact that the progressive left is so insanely stupid and have no ability to question authority when it's from the left. They have no ability. The only time they'll ever question the left is if they're not progressive enough. That's it. But they'll never question what they're doing. That's baked into their plans. To be like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And then they're not going to say shit because they're idiots. And they're just never going to question anything we do. And then we just keep going, we keep going, we keep going.
It's all baked in, Sam. It's all hermetic principles. It's all the polarities. They base these things on old hermetic principles. They need the polarities of extreme left and extreme right to pull you back from to clash. That's how problem reaction solution works. When it actually comes down to it, it's an alchemical process. It's alchemical processes are everywhere. Money laundering's an alchemical process. They're all a process of turning one thing into another. So they need this chaos. So she's either there in it, as you say, and I don't know much about her, but I trust your judgment on that. And or she's so bloody useless that she's, keeping the door open for him anyway. So she's useful. She's a useful idiot. She's there for a reason that people above her, either she's facilitating it in one way or another. That's why she's there. The whole fake Gavin Newsom, Donald Trump fight. We had Elon Musk last week. All of that nonsense is all clearly WWE style nonsense. And, how long we got to keep doing this? Round and round and round and round we go whilst the whole agenda moves forward.
Well, in the words of the great Ron Placone, oligarchies help oligarchies, and that's what you're seeing right now. It's this pack of elites, these energy vampires, all working together because it's very interesting what they want. They basically want a dumbed down, unhealthy population that cannot participate in government. That's what they want. They want you saturating in dumb data. They want you unhealthy. They want everything you eat to cause you great pain and suffering so that you're unable to understand that the system is set up that our Federal Reserve funds everything wrong in the world and our military takes our children and uses them as stormtroopers to curb stomp brown people around the world and take their natural resources. This is the empire. We are the stormtroopers. And they don't want you to participate in that. They don't want you to know how your government works. They don't want you to know how the Federal Reserve works. They want you to think you pay taxes to help stuff run. We just got to keep it running. No, your money goes to pay off the interest on the money printed by the Federal Reserve, because no bank lends money without interest, and that's it. That's it. And the whole thing about tax, I'm doing it right now. My ass is going to be steaming from the IRS getting deep in my guts by the end of the day. I'm going to have steam coming out my ass. That's how bad it is. It's so, like, it's gotten to the point where it's like you got money coming in, you're like, oh man, that's more tax. That's what it does to you.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I'm the same. You feel like you don't feel like you're earning. You feel like you're being punished to earn. I completely agree with you. I'm self-employed.
Yeah,
Feel the
me
same.
too.
Feel the same. It's like, fucking hell, this is going to cause me more hassle than it's worth. I get
Yeah,
that.
100%. And they're like, if you make this, we get this percentage. It's like, it makes no sense when you print your own money. Why are we paying taxes if we print money? It makes no sense to me. It's just sad, dude. It's just a crazy time. See, nobody talks about, and it's kind of crazy. What's really nuts is how all of these properties that Epstein owns, some billionaire comes up and buys it. They
Of
just
course he
buy it
does.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
The island, Zorro Ranch, everything else, they just buy it up, and you're like, oh, you just, I'm surprised there's not a sign outside that says under new management, right?
Yeah. It basically is. Yeah, exactly. It is. And then they go on they don't, because they don't have to tell you. We know that Epstein, was it 3 weeks before the FBI raided, he was tipped off and he had a £500,000, I believe, or £50,000 cement truck ordered there. What was he fucking filling in? What was he filling in? It's ridiculous. So, and then you had the video that came out a couple of weeks ago with the stuff on the chalkboard, and people were like, "Oh, this is some sort of code." He knew they were coming. He had a effing cement truck there. He's just, so whatever he put on the chalkboard, he wanted you to see clearly. It's totally ridiculous. It's all red herrings and nonsense. What's underneath? That's what I want to know. What is underneath there? They all had submarines. That's the big deep thing. And I genuinely think that all of this transhuman stuff can be traced back through Epstein. Juliet Bryant said to me many, many times that she didn't see any women being trafficked to anyone else other than for his own use. And I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying that she was a victim of him, a survivor of him. She had a payout. It's all official. She said that there was something else going on, and she wouldn't know what it is. And I think it's the transhumanist stuff. We know he was interested in it. We know he was funding these people. This is all to do with the ideology of the new world order, the world to come, in terms of making a transhumanist type being. George Church talks about something called handedness, which is basically your two hands like this. They're mirror images of each other, but you can't place that one over that one because they're mirror images of each other. What they're trying to do is make a mirror image of the human being. So all the cells that work on you are reversed in the other type of being. They're making a mirror world. That's why you have Alice in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass. All of this stuff is symbolic. That's why you have the bloody Freemasonic chessboard there, Solomon's Temple. The reason why 9/11 is IXXI, which is the sigil of Saturn. Well, the reason why all of this stuff happens, 9/11 in the biblical text is when the Solomon's Temple. I'm sorry, it's the Revelations 9/11. I'm not a religious person at all, but I study these things in a different way. Revelations 9/11 was when Abaddon came out the bottomless pit. It was a gateway. It's also the gate of Apollo. The Solomon's Temple, the first two, which I don't ever believe ever existed, they were supposed to be sacked on the 11th of the 9th, which again is the mirror image. They work in mirror images. So you've got a cult here, Sabbatean Frankists, I would say is probably the most appropriate name to them, that are working for all these different religions deep in there, and the Freemasons. They're all obsessed with Solomon's Temple, the Greater Israel Project, and this new world order, they call it Olam Haba, the world to come, which is all about epistrophy, going back up the Kabbalah, going back to God, which is the what they call the singularity. But now they're doing it through technology. So I've just put a video out, the Rosemary's Baby, Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley thing that I was mentioning earlier, now is being done with technology. So it's very likely that these atomic weapons that they were doing at Trinity site were not about just testing atomic weapons. They were about trying to rip the veil. And I'm sure you've heard that from other people as well, through the years. So there is more going on here than people realize. And it's got to do with the occult and an ideology that has this transhumanist. They call it the world to come. Is somewhere over the rainbow. It's the Noahide laws. All of these things just
Yeah, it's a hidden
same,
hand that's involved in
mm,
everything. Even these riots with Walmart,
same.
you know,
Yep.
and the cover that's being laid with that is that they're angry with the tariffs. So that's why they're doing it. But in reality, it's like that's their role in bringing in the martial law.
Hmm.
That's how you do it. You just it's your turn. You got to spend $1 billion on these riots, and that's how it goes. And it's so crazy to me that people don't see what's going on, and these useful idiots who are like, the no kings guys, like you have no clue what you're doing. You're trying to install a system that never ever worked because the people above won't fund it because you're taking away all their power, right? So they give you these fancy terms like no kings. You go out there and you destroy everything, and then they buy it up at pennies on the dollar, and then they slowly but surely start to enforce 15-minute cities. This is the useful idiot stuff all the time. Like somebody put out a video about Zionism, and I think it's what's his name? Who started Zionism? Herzl, is that his name?
Hmm. Yep.
And how he was an atheist.
Hmm.
Yeah, he pushes a ideology that says God gave people the land. Well, you're an atheist, dude. It's not only that you don't believe that God doesn't. There is no God to you. That's what you believe. There's no God. God does not exist. And it's just like, but yeah, it's so crazy to me. And there's dangerous things to say. There's some pretty dangerous people out there, like closeted gay men who are in power, very dangerous because they are manipulated through blackmail. And the other one, and this is where I'm going to get in trouble, but atheist Jews are very dangerous as well because they don't believe in God, but they support a cultural movement which allows certain people to do certain things that normally they wouldn't. There's no other religion they support, but they support one religion culturally and support them doing what they're doing, which makes no sense to me. Like, again, how can you believe that God gave people the chosen people land when when you don't believe in God?
Mm.
You see like the Bill Maher's, the Sam Harris's, like all these guys are like self they tell everybody they're atheist, but yet somehow they are just unrelenting Zionist.
Well, they believe they're God. They believe that they are gods. They want to, in my opinion anyway, they believe that they are becoming gods themselves by using this technology and pushing this agenda out. And they will be these, none of them want to die. All of them are terrified of death. Saturn, old father time, Kronos, whatever you want to call it. They're all afraid of death. When you look into this world to come, Olam Haba, it's not about the afterlife. It's about prolonging life here on Earth and living here, but changing this place into something else. They talk about bringing heaven down to Earth. They're not trying to die. They're trying to stay here and rule this place because they don't believe in God. They believe that it will just go to hell afterwards, or they've got to answer to something that they're not happy to answer to.
Yes.
They want to live forever. They want to be immortal. My next film is called I Am Immortal for Iconic, and it's about their never-ending search for immortality, which is ludicrous because no one knows what tomorrow's going to bring. So you never know if you're immortal, even if you live to 2000. It's ridiculous. But they want to be immortal. So they're selling the afterlife to the Christian Zionists. But actually, it's a death cult. They just want them to off themselves so they can leave the world to them. Leave the world to us. We want it. It's the whole point. So I've pointed this out a few times. I'm saying, like, obviously Donald Trump is not a Christian, but he'll play the role. He's even seen with the red tie on, and his son posted a picture of him with a red tie on and a goat's head, which is the scapegoat.
That's so really.
Yes, yeah, Donald Trump Jr. Put it in, you'll find it. It's a picture of Donald Trump's head replaced with a goat's head, and he's wearing a red tie, looking in the mirror, which I've just said. What did I say about that? It's the reversal. It's the mirror image. It's the mirror world. It's through the looking glass. It's all symbolic. He's leading the Christian Zionists off a cliff, and he's telling you that the people that follow him, that he's the scapegoat. He's going to scapegoat the Christians
Oh
for the
my
sins
God, dude.
of this cult. And that's exactly what he's doing. And he's telling you all of this stuff. And I've been trying to point out this symbology for a long time. He will tell you the world to come, the rainbow used in LGBTQ, that's about going over the rainbow. That's about the light spectrum, living on the flip side of this light spectrum.
Yes, dude. Yes. People never realize that the gay pride rainbow is the exact opposite of your chakras.
Yeah, it's the Noahide laws in reverse. Oh, sorry, no, it's the chakras in reverse, but it's the Noahide laws, which is the opposite. So when you look at CNBC's logo, have a look at their logo, because their logo is the inversion of the light spectrum. They're telling you the inversion of the truth in their logo. They tell you.
That is crazy,
So
dude.
when you start to look at these things, you're like, this is all obvious what this is. And the Chabad guys are massively behind this. Now, I agree with what you're saying. I don't think they believe in any of this stuff. I don't think they're Jewish in any way, traditional sense that
I
we might
totally
think.
agree, dude.
I think they're completely sabotaging Frankie's, and they're using that as a front. Absolutely. I think they're the men in black. That the black hats is quite clear to me. They're the guys that are very, very close. And look at their ideology. It's all Lurianic Kabbalah. Very close to Trump, Putin, and Netanyahu.
Well,
Now,
you bring
you
up.
know, they
Okay,
are.
go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, they are. And like a lot of people say, well, that just sounds mad. It is mad. But if you had Charles Manson hanging around with Donald Trump, you'd probably ask some questions. If you look into their belief system, it's very much built around a chosen people, which doesn't include me and you.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And you bring up Putin. I've been saying this forever. You know, the timing of Russia going into the Ukraine is right around when the veil of COVID was starting to get pulled back. People started asking questions, and then he goes in. Now, you know, you have these people on the internet that think Putin is some kind of good guy and he's, you know, fighting the cabal and all this stuff. He's playing his role in the play.
Yeah, it's
And
yep, completely agree.
when you study what is going on, you know, you had that Dave Portnoy. I don't know if you know who Dave Portnoy is. He's the head of a famous website out here called Barstool Sports. He's kind of became the Howard Stern of sports talk. And you know, he had this giant. What was the purpose of me bringing that up? Fuck.
He got
Oh
canceled?
no, but he you know he was going crazy because people were doing Jew jokes and all this stuff, and he was losing
Mm.
his fucking mind. And you know about how many more Jews have to die. You're like, well, right now you're at two, two of them, and we don't even believe those stories. That this is how you know it's not real when the story disappears in 2 days. You remember the assassination at the embassy? That was
Yeah,
gone instantly. The bombing in Oregon gone instantly. They have even in this crazy cycle. If that was a real story, that would have been around for a very long time,
mm.
and they're gone. That's how you know they're not real. But so he goes, how many Jews have to die? And I wish the guy would ask how many Christians have to die. And I'm sorry, but the Ukraine war right now has all the hallmarks of ethnic cleansing. When you realize that Zelensky is Jewish and Putin is Jewish, and they've killed like 1 million white Christians over there. And there's all this theory that Ukraine is going to be new Israel because you go back to the
Yep.
Khazarians controlling trade routes, Silk Road, all that stuff. Fits perfectly into that. Slaughter a bunch of people. So there was this video of some tourists in Russia, and he was going to the nightclubs, and he said there's nightclubs there where there's no men. There's no men in the nightclubs. And you're like, yeah, I wonder where they went. Oh, to war and probably never came back. There, after World War II, I'd say about 20, 30 years after it, there were very few old men around because most of them had died in the war.
Hmm.
Nobody had aged out. So this is all like, this is the whole thing. It's like, okay, you have what's presented. How deep can you dig to find what the real layer is or another layer? And that is what kind of our job is. But it's all
Yeah,
there. And and again, I've said this before on the show. Dude, they use Abrahamic religions as masks to walk amongst us.
absolutely.
I mean that
100%.
that Mark Levine guy, that insane Zionist who wants war with Iran, never gonna fight in this war. That fat old fuck, never gonna fight. Sorry, Xavier. Every time I swear, he's gonna have to beep it, so I feel bad for him. But you walk. There's a picture of him, and again, here we are walking around in some kind of religious garb with a giant black cube on his head.
Yeah. The cube is Saturn. Yeah, even Trump's got a cube above his place in Istanbul.
Yeah.
It's like I mean, they are blatant with it, but I agree with you. The three Abrahamic religions were, in my view, personal view, made to be played off against each other. It's classic triangulation. Get three people, three groups, three sections of society to argue over the same thing when none of it makes any sense anyway. And we all know it's all lifted from mythology, Greek mythologies, Egyptian mythologies, mixed in there, Zoroastrianism, there's all sorts in there. There is a lot of, I think there's a lot of worth to it, but also it's a lot of it is alchemical principles, and like 40 days and 40 nights is alchemical of how you turn one substance into another, and that's whole putting the story of coming back as someone else. We know the dying and rising sun, we know all of that is clearly the day. So we do understand that these things have different, but they're meant to really, they're weapons to fight people, to divide people. We know that. And I don't believe, as exactly you said, that these people are genuinely Jewish, as we would say it. And there's the whole thing about most people think Jewish is a race. They do. They still do to this day. It's a faith, obviously. And how can you say because your mum's mum was Jewish, you're suddenly Jewish? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any fucking sense because at all, does it? It's total lunacy, and let's call it for what it is. It's lunacy. It's a faith. It's something you choose to be. There is no genetic Jew. We know that. Of
Johnny,
course there
your
isn't.
thoughts?
There is no genetic Christian. There's no genetic Muslim. There's more likely if you're in that part of the world. Of course it is. But
I think when you
genetics,
have I think what Sam is asking me to say is that when you have a group that was as cloistered as they were, there are going to be certain genetic characteristics they share because they had only bred in that small community for a while. So yeah, there are some things that they call Jewish traits, but that are
It's not.
really
It's not actually
well, yeah, I don't know
a race.
when does it become a race? I don't know. I
It
think they
doesn't.
just want it to be a race, but yeah, they do share because you can say like
Like
I mean
curly hair,
modern
right?
DNA stuff. It's
Like curly hair, that curly hair, big nose. That's what's considered
Jeez.
genetic, right? I don't know. I mean, because I don't. Isn't that what
I
part of
mean
genetics?
well
Isn't that part of
they're
genetics, or is that because they breed in between each other?
Well, I mean, Armenians are like that. That's why Armenians have a weird genetic makeup because they were surrounded by Muslims and they only kept humping each other. That's why. It's just the truth. But
then you go to okay, you got two things going on there, and I agree with what you're saying. I can see your point. As your ethnicity is something that where you are, and obviously the people you live with, the DNA it gets passed down. We know that it has nothing to do with your ideology and the way you see the world and what you believe to be true about the gods and why we're here and your where you go afterwards and why we got here. That's a belief system. They're two separate things. They're two separate things too, and they're trying to intertwine like the serpents of the caduceus. They're trying to twist both around each other. They don't. They're not one and the same. One's a belief system, and one's a genetic inheritance. They're not the same, and they're just not. And one's more likely if you come from a certain place, but the same here. If you come from where I live, you're more likely to be Christian. But we all, especially now, we all look completely different. But I get what you're saying, and even the Khazar, even the nose thing is Turkish, not even it's Khazar. It's not even a Jewish thing. It comes
Well,
from
because
these.
ours, if you go back far enough, they're Turkish,
Yeah,
which is why I believe Israel never recognizes the Armenian genocide because that
exactly.
far back. Yeah, it's super crazy, dude. It's super duper crazy.
But
And
it goes into other things, Sam. Just on that point, they this cult, and it's a cult, they co-opt things. So like the term Semitic means a group of languages largely Arabic, spoken by the Palestinians. It's co-opted. They steal it. That's not what it means. You can't say you're anti-Semitic and then go in and kill a bunch of, well, genocide, people that speak those languages. It's absurd. But this is the mirror image, upside down, topsy-turvy world that Alice in Wonderland said, I hope I live one day in a world where nothing means what it means, basically, was the quote. And that's where we are. It doesn't.
yeah, I agree with you. I agree. It's just very weird to me that we have seen people's programming override their biological drives, and there is a part of humans that are there to protect children.
Mm,
And yet their programming overrides that and they're okay with calling 1 year olds and 2 year olds terrorists. And they get so caught into it, into this fever that it's just so empowering. And it's just they just go hard in the paint on it. And it's just crazy because they got crazy looks in their eyes. And they're all October 8thers. That's why I call them the people who stopped gathering data on October 8th. That's all they need to know. No matter what the Israeli government says, no matter what Israeli politicians say, that contradicts everything they heard on October 8th, they don't care. They don't care because most people just can't come to grips with that. There's something deeper going on, and they can't come to grips that the people that they love, the people that they elected to represent them, can't aren't excuse me, don't have their best interests at heart, and they have no ability to question authority. It's almost like they're all Cabbage Patch dolls, right?
yeah.
From the orphan train.
The people that are pulling all the strings on this have nothing in common with us. Well, we all have a lot of common with each other. We're just people messing around trying to figure it out. Have no idea really what's going on. We have different belief systems. We're all the same. We all just want an easier life. We just want to like, take care of our kids, and we all know this. And it's these people that are greedy, the gluttonous. They're psychopathic that want to just play us off against each other, and we know this. I'm not saying I have any solution to it because we'd have to go, well, we'd have to kind of work our way out of this mess. But killing each other, killing children, come on, where have we got to? We do know this is, where's the common sense gone? Where is the literal common sense gone? And it's, I think we're going to have to kind of get to the point. I mean, I hope it gets to the point where it's not irreversible, but it is for thousands of people already who've already died because it's madness. And there's a small group of these people that do it. But when you tell them about this stuff, they're more inclined to believe that, I don't know, things like it always find it always amazing that they think Jesus can come out of a cave and go up with his dad a few weeks later or a few days later when he walked down a hill. Then they can believe that Epstein might have been doing stuff under his island. I
One
don't
thing,
understand that logic at
one
all.
thing I will say is like, and I see this with the cold data guys, I'll call them, all right, the cold data guys, that there's this whole thing where, you know, that they're super Trumpers and they can't question daddy and all this stuff. And I don't see that. I know maybe it's just my algorithm, but I do see a lot of people freaking the fuck out. Sorry, XG, freaking out about this Palantir stuff. I think a
Mm.
lot of them are calling him out. Like, I've got to get Adam Green on the show again, but I said that Trump's going to lose his base, and Adam Green called me a crazy person. But I see it happening. I see people going, "We didn't vote for this. We didn't want this. You sold us on this, and we didn't get it. We're not getting anything we wanted. You told us you're going to get rid of the Fed. You told us you're going to get rid of the IRS. You told us all this stuff. There are people not paying taxes because they thought the IRS was going, and now it's like here it is, and now it's taking all your money. Uh, but I see people calling out. I have way more faith in the religious right or just the right bailing on Trump than I do the left doing anything at all because their whole thing is built on conformity. Now I understand the right left paradigm, but I have way more faith. I think this has gone so bad in Trump's first year. That's 3 years to another election. Now again, we're not going to vote our way out of it. But what you can do is make it so incredibly obvious that the system is broke, even to the most idiotic, that something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the Libertarian Party, it's like herding cats. Like good luck getting all these people that are anti-authority to agree on an authority. It just never happened. And then I mean, what an easy way to send in like agent provocateurs into an insane asylum, which is the Libertarian Party. You're just inviting all the Johnny thoughts.
You're totally right. Yeah,
It's impossible.
especially it's I mean, if you're bored, just go watch some that you can just Google argument libertarian meeting, that kind of thing, and there's just it's a whole genre of, because there's, yeah, it's you the only thing you see, people who are Democrats and Republicans buy into the whole platform, do you know? And the only thing that most people who are libertarians are bought in on is the idea that they want less government. That's it. So they argue about everything else because they're just not joiners. You know what I mean? And I mean, I saw that with the Ron Paul thing too. It was because then you were trying to take people who really should be libertarians and get them to operate in the Republican Party apparatus.
Yeah.
But what's the take on borders or immigration when it comes to libertarian?
You gotta have them, but definitely not all this crazy shit that's going on now. Yeah, enforce the laws that are on the books, but keep it local as possible. I would say probably. And I again, that's another thing I think it's personal. I'll tell you. Okay, what would the Libertarian Party say about it?
Yeah.
Let's see. All right.
Are you going to ask ChatGPT?
No, I'm just Googling it. The Libertarian Party generally supports more open borders, arguing that restricting immigration violates the individual rights to freedom of movement and association. They see government and national boundaries as arbitrary, which I totally agree with. Some libertarians believe that even modest immigration restrictions are costly and ineffective. Yeah, my opinion would be that it should be left up to the local governments and the state governments. They want to band together and enforce the border. Sure. I mean, because what does a nation mean if you don't have borders is always how I've felt about it. But the problem, I think, if you really want to get down to it, is the reason people want to come here in many cases is because of all the social programs. And if they didn't exist, you would disincentivize border jumping. So that's really where I stand on it.
But it's so many layers upon layers upon layers. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, dude, you got this border problem. The cartels are smuggling drugs in the border. Who runs the cartels? The CIA.
Yeah.
So the people in charge of like stopping the drugs from coming in are the same ones that are oh come on, stop. Are the same ones who are smuggling them in. The same people in charge of who are smuggling it into the country, the same people who are there to stop the drugs from getting in. It's very crazy to me. It's so layered. At every layer, there is a controlled opposition person, and and this is the weirdest thing of it all. It's like, so our mainstream media is supposedly dead. That's why everybody says, "Oh, dude, look at these ratings; they're dead." But how do their messages get out? How is it everywhere? And it gets into these ley line things that I've always thought about. How the earth is a power grid and there's ley lines, and on these ley lines, there's a way to kind of like project energy and ideas. And I know it sounds so fucking nuts, but I really do believe there's something to it, that they use these ley lines to project this thing that they no longer need. They're obviously not getting the views, but yet this narrative is everywhere. And it's like there's not enough people watching CNN. What's CNN's numbers? 1 million, sometimes 500,000.
It says, I just Googled it. It says that CNN during the week of June 2nd averaged 619,000 total viewers. And so I imagine MSNBC is less than that. And so, yeah, you're talking about just a few million on average. Yeah.
Well, yet it's everywhere. Like their talking points are everywhere.
Though, it's not, I guess it's not the same 600,000 at any given time. You know what I mean? Like some people may, a different 600,000 are watching in the morning than are watching in the evening, I suppose. So, but still, you're only talking, let's give you
Isn't that over like an hour, like at this time slot?
Yeah.
They get this number.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the issues is, and I've looked at this, I can see what you guys think, is that because of the alternative media, well, one, that they've hooked, some of them have hooked their wagon to Trump, and their whole business needs Trump and all of this stuff. Without it, they will collapse, and once he goes, they won't know what to do with themselves. They'll need someone else to replace it to. They've built their whole business around it. But on the other hand, is that the alternative media often is a reflex action to the mainstream media. So they feed off each other. So we're commenting on the media. So instead of, they say, go and doing research into some weird stuff like I tend to do and a lot of other people do as well, they tend to sort of talk about politics and talk about the mainstream media and what they're saying. So the message gets out there by proxy because people are commenting on the news. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Reaction videos.
Yeah.
Reaction videos. Yeah, I understand that. I guess. I mean, on YouTube, there's some people, but I feel like there's a narrative that just doesn't get any traction. And it goes back to what Jim Lee came on my show and he talked about how they can just activate people, dude. They have these these radio waves and they can just activate people, man. And it goes back to the Nephilim Death Squad episode. It goes back to that, and just their ability with metal in your mouth and metal in your vaccinations. They can send radio waves, and it's crazy to me.
Well, do you have any ideas that that are in your mind right now that you don't know where they originated about the news, about current events?
Well, no,
I'm pinpoint to a moment where you saw them on TV or read them in a newspaper.
Well, Johnny, I do. I mean, like, to be honest with you, I do that all the time.
What?
Like, I always tell you I'm psychic. You don't believe it because you just hate happiness.
I mean, because you've been wrong about some of the biggest things that happen over the.
Okay, Johnny. All right. What? Like what?
Like Biden being elected.
Nope.
Yeah, I remember I went thousands of dollars from everyone.
Nope. You and I both know what happened in that election, Johnny.
Right. Exactly what I said would happen. It would be stolen and Biden would win.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But you and I both know what happened in that election. So I was right, and you just won on a technicality.
You said Biden was going to be president, but seriously, do you? I back to because that would suggest that now we have ideas in our brains, or not even ideas, knowledge of current events that we can't pinpoint the origin of. Is that? Do you think
there are things, Johnny? I say this all the time on the show where I play things out in my head, whether that's psychic or it's being planted. I don't know. I mean,
like current event, because you're suggesting that like they're like current event, how are these people finding out about the opinions of Tucker Carlson or Anderson Cooper? I guess now would be a more apt example that are being beamed into people's brains, right?
Yeah, I do believe that.
So are you getting liberal?
Maybe I'm not the guy that is easily persuaded. I do think there are weird thoughts in my head that I have, and I'm just like, okay, well, that's
what do some people get Fox signals in there?
Well, Johnny, I don't know if have you driven across country?
Yeah, of course, I drove out across country.
They'll tell when you go through the states, the news updates you get on your phone change depending on what the political views of that state are. People talk about it all the time.
Well, okay, but that's actually getting an update on your phone. I mean, that's different than
right.
It being beamed to your mobile.
I understand what you're doing, what you're saying.
Well, you're
Give me
suggesting
an
that
example.
it's being beamed into people's brains without their consent or knowledge,
I
right?
do think that, yes.
Right.
So your
Am I
last
can I sit there and go, oh, hey Johnny, how about this? At this moment, I cannot. But
What
I
about your
do.
last thing? What about your last one, Sam? Was that Mel K? You said it
Yeah,
was
Mel
her, but
K
did you
said
say
that.
but you
Well,
say
no,
exactly like that, or was still
no,
somehow outside of
okay,
yours?
okay. Great example, Xavier. The point of that clip is where I go, okay, they're not showing these Democrats who's boss. They're moving assets. That was something that popped in my head.
Right, but the government's not beaming that to your brain because they don't want you to know that.
But
That's
Johnny,
something
how do you know? It sows doubt. That's all I'm saying. No, I'm saying, could it be psychic? Yeah, probably. Is it possible that it's possible? I mean, anything's possible. I mean, at this point, Johnny, you've been on the show long enough. Are you really ruling anything out?
I doubt that CNN is being beamed into people's brains. Yes.
So what do
Okay.
you guys think it is? I want to put this point out here. So I look at things in a different way in terms of, coding. So I think Trump was supposed to be the 45th and the 47th president because that's the 9/11 president.
Yes.
So what is that? What, just get your take on that. What that is? Because to me, that's on purpose. That's the signal of Saturn, 9/11. That's when Solomon's Temple was supposed to go down. All of that stuff, the Twin Towers, Salomon building, Building 7, all of this Kabbalah nonsense. Clearly, there's a code they're working to. So what do you guys kind of make of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's all called symbolism. That's my whole opinion. They just that is the script that they run from. They have to play to these numbers. That's their occult symbolism. That's how they let people know that they're a part of the club. That's how they let people know that they did this, that they that's how they do. They leave. I saw somebody who was the other day. Who was it? 7C said this. He goes, the revelation of the method happens when they let you know when it's too late to stop them. That's an interesting take.
I
You
like
know,
that. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
that's an interesting take. But it's just built again. It's built into the way they operate. I don't know why it's there, but it's there. And they give you symbols all the time. It's crazy.
Well, you just had Trump come out today and said a classic Freemason term. He used the rioters will be dealt with extreme force. Force is the Freemasonic energy that they play around with. Michael Jackson was talking about the force in Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, and that was Freemasonic. Clearly, it is the force. They drop these little Kabbalah quotes in there, and I think I agree with Sam. That it's a nod and a wink to say I'm in the club too. But is that was one force, golden age, all of these stuff. Like
Yes.
once you start to read it, is it a mind thing because you learn the language, or is it because you're now tuned into it, you start spotting it? I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's much more intentional, and yeah, I mean it's easy because I mean, I do now some of the things I do wonder how much of the coding is just baked into our humanity. Do you know?
Yeah.
Especially at that level, because when you examine data sets, a few data points won't give you a pattern, but if you zoom out and you take them all in at once, then you can see the patterns emerge, and see the numbers that repeat and that kind of thing. And I do believe there's something to our humanity that's just coded. It could be the DNA, like you were saying earlier. That
Yeah, that was
and the Trump thing,
crazy.
I believe that too. I believe.
I think that's why I love your show and the guys like yourself that look into all of these different areas because that's why it's so important. People get stuck in a little area of research and stay there for years. So you need to look, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, of a whole wide range of different areas. That's why David Icke is so good at what he does. I'm not saying I agree with everything he does. Says he's never told me to. I've known him for 6 years, been on stage with him. He's never once put his views on me ever, and I can say that hand on heart. But he looks in such a wide range of weird shit that he has an idea of patterns. And all we're doing is looking at we're detectives. We're looking at patterns and we can spot these patterns. And people have to work in patterns. We night and day. We have to go in patterns. We function in patterns. Our whole system of how we regulate the world is in patterns. The whole story of the land of Nod, of Cain getting banished to the land of Nod, was because there was nothing there. There was a black sun there. He had no point of reference. So he was in chaos because he had no point of reference. That was the point. So then he started building cities because he needed some structure. So we become very good at recognizing structure and coded language. That's what this is. But they have to work in that code. And I think the really good news for everybody is that once you figure their code out, it's a piece of piss to try and follow what they're doing. And they know now that a lot of people actually have figured this out. And they have to stick to that code now because that's their language. We've reversed the Tower of Babel. We've figured out what they're doing and we've figured out their language. That's why it's important. And I think it's a really like positive situation. And our contribution to this is that here you go. This is what they're talking about when they talk about rainbows. This is what they're talking about in the golden age. This is what they're talking about when they're talking about the Force, when they use the number 7, when they use number 11, when they do certain things. Why is he called Romulus and he's called his kid Romulus? I mean, it's logical. It's actually logical. But we've been told and taught that it's illogical because we're conspiracy theorists. Actually, as per usual, it's the inverse of everything.
Yeah, I mean that's well put, and it is paradigms. And the more you play into those paradigms, the more you can get mass appeal. I see it in comedy all the time. Keep it simple, stupid is kind of where it goes. And like the minute you make people think, the minute they get out of it, they kind of snap out of the trance. But I will agree with you, dude. I do think we're winning. It's just it always gets darker before the light. I don't know how it ends. They could still get what they want. But I think it's getting harder and harder for them to pull their stuff. I think, these two assassination attempts, one again in Washington, D.C., one in Oregon, those died hard because everyone's like, bullshit. None of it makes sense. Where are the crime pictures? And they're trying to get more and more sophisticated, but I mean, who knows what's going to happen once AI gets so good? We may be just like, oh yeah, there's a video of it. You're like,
Yeah, dude, that's what you really got
hmm.
to watch that movie Mountainhead because it's all about what it's going to be like in the near future where you can't trust anything that you encounter. And it could be if people take it that way, which I doubt they will, but if they take like, hey, we now like what you just said, can't trust anything that we see on our computers, that could be great. That could be like a new era of just people relating face to face and maybe newspapers become a thing again. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you,
I
dude.
doubt it, but
I
Has
don't
the
know if
news,
newspapers will ever
right?
become something, but
something like that though that's tangible, that was curated by a human being and not an AI is
Do you,
valuable.
do you know if the news has posted anything that was AI, like as
Yeah,
a mistake?
The Chicago Sun-Times got busted a couple of weeks ago, and I think they got it from elsewhere, but the New York Times reported on it that they published a book reading list, like the summer's best books, and
so
half the
crazy,
books
dude.
did not exist. And they quoted a fake expert from artificial intelligence, just hallucinations, as they call them,
Oh, it's
from AI.
hallucination stuff. I think what you've pointed out there, Johnny, is really good. It's again the principle of polarity. Something can happen, but there is always a positive and a negative to take from it, and it depends on what we do with it. It really does depend on what we do with it, and I think that we're lucky. I don't know about you guys. I feel incredibly lucky to get to do this for a living and live in the Western world.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm commenting on some horrific shit every day that happening to these people, and we're the ones that get to try and, sit here and talk about it. I feel incredibly lucky. I've got two little boys, like I've got a lovely little life. I don't want for much, and I just feel like my duty is to do this because I want to, because I'm very, very privileged to do this. But we're the safe one, we're the lucky ones. So I think there is a kind of duty to speak for the people that can't, that are really at the arse end of this in the Middle East, in Gaza, in Ukraine, the normal people that don't want anything to do with any of it and don't understand why their world's been turned upside down. I do believe that we're the lucky ones, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree
Absolutely.
with you on that, dude. And more people are waking up. People are starting to realize going back kind of like what you're talking about, the mirror image. But it's also gets in the fact that they've used this Federal Reserve to fund this false reality. And it's getting so bad. And what I've discovered what I believe is happening, Johnny, I'd love to hear your opinion on this, is that diversity has not gone away. They're just talking less about it. They're doing less promotion of, oh, look at this diverse cast we have, anything like that. They're just kind of creating these shows and it's going under the radar on that that they're super diverse. I don't see anything changing. It's really impossible for Hollywood to get the fuck out of its way. It's just really hard
Well,
because
what
it's
was
just
it? It's that Russian word you keep quoting that I can't pronounce either.
I'll give it to you.
There's this massive glut, this just the pipes are clogged in the middle of the bureaucracy, and this includes Hollywood with these people that were hired during, under the reign of DEI, and they've not been cleaned out, and they're going to be making decisions for a while to come.
Korenizatiza. KORENIZATSIIA.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's right, and I do think now, especially with Hollywood, you won't see it for a while just because things take so long to make, especially the large things. Because I mean, like we've heard, Disney at the top at least has given directives, like, hey, we're not doing this shit anymore. You saw it in a small way with something that was already in post production, White Lotus. They cut several storylines that were more kind of woke oriented, and that. So I think you'll see it a little, but yeah, I don't expect that's people, dude. They're not going away.
Did that movie, that Snow White movie, did that flop?
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was supposed to flop over her just complaining about the storyline and how it's so
And also the thing about little people, like
Yeah.
them making these little CGI freaks instead of actually letting actual little people have those jobs. They created these disgusting monstrosities, and then they had a little person in the movie who wasn't one of the dwarves. It doesn't make any sense. It's just crazy.
Living in crazy ass times.
Yeah,
So what do you think the future of Israel is going to be, Richard? Do you think they survive? Do you think I just don't see how they can. I just don't see. I mean, like you're now seeing Israeli soldiers getting arrested, I think in Canada. They
What?
just got arrested. I think, well, maybe I was wrong, or was it Thailand where I guess they committed this crime, but apparently Canada is now looking into war crimes of some of its dual citizens. Like, does this give you any hope at all?
Interesting.
I think what's happening is that Israel, the people of Israel, not the government, not the IDF, the people of Israel are cannon fodder, and it's part of the narrative that they will be attacked. It's part of it. So the reason is that they need to go through this, and they see this as a kind of sacrifice, a purging. So in their narrative of their end times narrative, this is actually part of the narrative that all the nations will rise up against Israel. We've heard that. I don't know. I'm sure you guys have heard that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bible. Yeah.
Yeah, so all the nations will rise up against Israel. So it's quite obvious to me that this is their cannon fodder as well. Only a small percentage of them are supposed to survive. We know there's Sephardic and Ashkenazi, and there is a class level there as well already, and what people don't even know about that. So they're cannon fodder, and that's why they're out on the street, because I think they realize. But their biblical text says the nations will rise up against Israel, and then they will have a bloody fallout with the Christians on, I think it's Mount Moriah, isn't it? And then they go down before the Golden Arches, which is McDonald's, by the way. And all of this stuff. So they're all going to go to this bloody mountain. And I've got a theory about this, why the US will get the Gaza Strip, because they want all the evangelical Christians to be near this location for when this thing's supposed to play out on Mount Moriah, I believe it is. Or is it Mount Sinai? I think it's Moriah. It might be Sinai. You'll have the evangelical Christians waiting for their savior, messianic guy to come down, who will be from the sky, and then you'll have this physical person from the Jewish faith who will come along and actually be there and be their Messiah. And then you'll have these two faiths go at it, and you won't actually have the Christians won't have anyone, because there'll be no one coming down from the sky, I'm wrong, and that is all true. The whole point is that this is supposed to be a clash at the end there, and that's all to do with the nations, the 70 nations rising up against Israel. It's a setup for the people. They're using the Israeli people and that faith and this cult behind it, as we call it, as a death
I
cult,
agree.
Sabbatean
I
cult.
agree with the
They're
point they're
not
using
Jewish. They don't
Israel.
give a shit about the Jewish people or the faith. They're
Yeah.
using the Israeli people to play out these end time prophecies. And that's exactly what, in my opinion, after 15 years of looking at this is what's happening. The Solomon's Temple is part of it. AI in Solomon's Temple. Look at Westworld. Westworld told you. Westworld told you that the main hub, CPU hub in Westworld was called Rehoboam.
Yeah.
That's the son of Solomon
Yeah.
in the biblical text. They tell you. They're telling you what they're going to do.
It's
But,
so
There was
crazy.
so much in that show. Yeah, so
yeah,
much
there was.
biblical imagery in that show. I found that story, by the way, Sam. This is from January. A former Israeli soldier on vacation in Brazil fled the country suddenly after a case was brought against him there, alleging he was responsible for war crimes while serving in Gaza. The case is the latest in a series of lawsuits brought by the Hind Rajab Foundation. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that properly. That tracked the activities of hundreds of Israeli soldiers. So you got this watchdog group that's tracking the specific actions of Israeli soldiers, much like they did with Nazis post-war. Last week, a Brazilian judge ordered police to investigate the soldier, and they're saying that this is now a threat. The gist of this story was that I'll just read the headline: Israeli soldiers face growing risk of arrest abroad after Gaza service. So they're making it difficult for these soldiers.
They will do because the job's
Yeah.
done in Gaza now. They've been used. Fuck them.
Oh, that's
Just
an interesting take, dude. The job is done, so you can just throw all these guys in jail. I mean, they're talking about how all these they're having a manpower problem. That's why they have to use women. They're having a manpower problem because all these guys are coming back and blowing their brains out.
Oh no.
Sheesh.
It's funny,
See-
that's what happened if you believe the accounts of Himmler and the Holocaust. He went out and witnessed some of these shooting executions of Jews and was like, "Oh, this is horrible. This is really bumming my guys out. We got to figure out a better way to do this. This is nasty." And that's when they developed some of the more sophisticated, if you believe the story, because he was kind of a touchy boy, Himmler, and he didn't like the idea of his SS boys having to actually shoot people in a personal way. So yeah, you see it with our own troops come back. We lost a whole generation to suicide coming back from Iraq and
Yeah.
Afghanistan.
War isn't natural. They try to make you think it's natural. It's not. And the type of war that people are seeing now is more destructive than ever.
And what was that war off the back of? It was back off the back of 9/11, the Sigil of Saturn, which is the Gate of Apollo, which is all Freemasonic stuff, and it was all to do with the Greater Israel Project, as you guys well know, project for the new American century. So who's pushing this? It's not the Israeli people, is it? It's not. It's this cult that sits behind them and others. You've got Netanyahu, Putin, and Trump all belonging to the same messianic sect. They're not. It's not a religious thing. It's an ideology.
Yeah, I agree.
Thing.
Yeah, I agree, dude.
How is he still in office, Netanyahu? It seems like things are starting to turn against him, right? Finally.
Well, I think they're going to throw him under the bus. I think he's just there, just like you said that Trump's a sacrificial goat. I think, I think that's Netanyahu. His job is to drive it as far as he could, and if he gets thrown in jail, that's just part of the gig.
It seems, yeah.
But it's also could be that he drives as far as he can, and then the Israelis throw him under the bus, and he's seen it by like some as a bad guy, and then by the real extreme, extreme Zionists, he's seen as a great guy. I think that they're all sacrificial lambs. Once you play this game, they could do anything they want with you. They could make you the biggest king of kings, or they could throw you out like a paper cup. They don't like, dude. It's like, what is your purpose for them? What is your use for them? And that's kind of how it goes. So, now we get in Twitter, which Twitter, I like Twitter. It's addicted to me. I'm trying to get off it. I got a new phone. I'm not putting any social media on it or anything like that. But then what is Twitter about? We all know it's data mining. That's fine. But is it go deeper? Is all this anti-Semitism stuff that's allowed to flow on there, is that meant to scare Jews? Is that meant to scare Jews that they can't leave their house? So then they move to Israel, which is again part of this whole prophecy stuff. And that's what you get into. Is like, is that also part of what Hitler's job was? I 100% believe Hitler was a British spy, sold boy ass when he was younger, which is consistent with all of these guys that they insert into power. They have a sexual history that they can exploit, and then they get them into power and they do their bidding. That's my thoughts. Any thoughts, Richard?
The X thing is fascinating because um, when they were going through it's funded by the Qatar National Sovereign Fund, something along those lines, has funded them. So that's Qatar, and he was in Saudi Arabia, always in Qatar, with Jared Kushner watching a football game with the guys that helped him fund and purchase. And I will say, I don't believe he owns anything. X. So they've got this Qatar and Saudi Arabian connection here to that. Now, you would think that Jared Kushner, who's a Chabadnik, which is this Jewish Messianic faith,
Yes.
what is he doing in Qatar watching a football game with Elon Musk? In the Qatar World Cup, where they're talking about the purchase of X, because they're all in the same thing together. Because again, it goes past the Saudi royals, who are the fake Saudi royals, and
Yes,
it goes
dude.
into
British intelligence.
British intelligence. It goes into, we all know that happened a long time ago. This cult doesn't see boundaries. It thinks it owns everything. So it's sabotaging, it's sabotaged. It's like a virus. It's gone in and it's taken over all of these things. So that's why you see these weird connections that really, hang on a minute, that shouldn't be there. But they are. They are there because they all work together at that level, and I think we know that. We come in knowing that, and then sometimes some alternative media groups forget that because it doesn't fit the narrative anymore. But it's quite clearly we know that this isn't about countries. This isn't about anything other than a global corporation. The X Corp will be a global corp. So Twitter is a fascinating one because when you look into the funding, straight away you're finding Qatar. And you're finding Jared Kushner in there with the Qatar guys. That shouldn't be happening. That doesn't make sense. If Saudi Arabia and Israel are mortal enemies.
Yeah, I agree. But the question becomes, who's running Israel, who's running Saudi Arabia,
Yep.
and I believe it's the British Empire or the Bank of England, and then above them is these black nobility people that we
I
never
agree.
hear any word of, and it's like all these people are low hanging fruit. Netanyahu's low hanging fruit. Zionist low hanging fruit. Mark Levine low hanging fruit. They want you to focus on them and not at the higher level. So I had a friend of mine hit me up because that clip is going everywhere and everyone's, saying, wow, you called this shit. Right. Okay. And then she's like, I'm freaking out. And because she's kind of new to it. And I go, the key, you're going to get crazy at first and you're going to want to save everybody like Paul Revere yelling and screaming, the lizard people are coming. And so you go through the pills. You start out blue, then you get a red, then you get a black, and then you get a white. And the white to me is that you can't control any of it. You can only control you and yourself. And for me, the key to knowing all this stuff is so you don't fall for their psyops. You don't allow their energy draining psyops to control you. And that's the key to me. That's really what it is at the highest levels. Like, just get closer to God. I don't know what your personal opinion is on God, and it's whatever it is. But I find that the closer you get to source, anxiety goes down, depression goes down, you get in better shape and all that stuff. And it's like easy versus simple. Our whole society's built on easy. It's drugs, alcohol, pornography, quick fix shit. And the other side is prayer, meditation, working out, helping others. Like you do all that stuff, things seem to get better for you. What are your thoughts?
Well, I believe in it. I mean, clearly this place is designed. There is a design. I'm not saying it's a Matrix style trap. That's probably something I don't actually buy into. I don't think it's a healthy mindset, but I do believe there's clearly a design to this place. So I believe there is a God in terms of a consciousness and an intellect. There's clearly a design to this place. It's not an accident. So I believe there is a God, yes, if you want to call it that. I don't believe in any biblical God or biblical text or any that way. I don't believe there's a bad God and you get punished for this. I mean, who would do that? I mean, if that's the case, screw that. Who would drop their kids off at school and then tell them off for not knowing their way home? Like, it doesn't make sense. If God wanted us to do certain things, well, he hasn't given us any bloody directions to do it. That's abusive. That makes no sense. So I do believe there is a God. But I believe that really what it's about, obviously, as you know, we used to live in small tribes. We used to live with our families. And I feel like I get to do this, and what a blessing it is to contribute. And when I leave this place, like my dad passed away 6 months ago, and I was there and holding his hand, saw him go, looking up, he was looking at something. And I believe that when I go, I'll know that I at least tried, had a go. I was all right, did my best. I wasn't a bad, like, I wasn't an evil, nasty piece of work, and I had a go. And, I'm quite happy with that. I'm quite happy with that. I'm not meant to solve any problems or solve all the problems of the world. I have no idea what's going on any more than anyone else. And my kind of philosophy of life is there's a kind of an analogy that I've got is that we've all woken up on a plane, on an aeroplane in the middle of the air. We've all just woken up on it. None of us know how we got there. None of us know who each other are. None of us know where we're going to land. No, and the bloody driver or the pilot won't speak to us. And we have no idea how much fuel's left in the tank. So we might as well just try and enjoy ourselves. Because I don't know what's going on. I have no idea.
I wanted to ask you something. What's your take on Russell Brand?
I think that I don't think personally I don't know, but I don't think he's guilty, or I don't think he can even remember. But I think that they've got him by the hooks as soon as all that happened in New York. By the way, who runs New York? These guys do. He was straight on there, chucked off YouTube. Peter Thiel gave him a home on Rumble. He was pushing the Peter Thiel app, the Hallow app. I think they got their claws into him, and he's scared. But I don't know if I don't think he can remember, if I'm honest. But I don't believe that Channel 4 documentary was ridiculous. For that to come out and then all this stuff to happen, and suddenly he's found Jesus. He's basically doing as he's told. He's scared, and rightly so. He's got children. I don't know whether he's guilty. I don't know that. I generally don't think he was, but I also think he was off his nut for 10 years, so who knows? And he's got children. He's a parent. Them kids have got to see his dad, but he's compromised in a way that maybe he hasn't done anything wrong, but how can he find his way out of it? He's in there with Thiel. He's turning up at Trump's parties. They've got him. And I feel it's sad, really. I think it's really sad. And this is the dangerous game you play when you try and take all the money and the fortune and you chase the fame. That's where you're heading.
So I want to end on this. Been a great episode. I don't know what your take on the P. Diddy is, if it's more of an American thing than anything else. It's like this guy's dirty laundry is just being put out. A lot of people, we just had Ellie Sadiq on the show. He thinks P. Diddy's getting off. I don't know. I mean, it's possible, but I don't know. But man, this guy, I don't know. Like, I don't know what's worse for Diddy, going to jail or getting off and now have to like what's the word? Into society, reintegrate into society. I mean, it's crazy to me. So this is the thing that just came up. Brad Binkley just put this out. It's from the recent day of P. Diddy's court case. And this is what a chick testified to. Ready? Diddy's wildest sexual fantasy involved a twisted NBA role play, casting himself as Michael Jordan, his ex-girlfriend as Kobe Bryant, and a male escort she regularly set up with as Shaquille O'Neal.
What?
Yeah, the ex testified one day that the fifth week in disgrace rap mogul's sex trafficking trial. Dude, that is so funny, dude.
Good. Wait, that's just all right. Sounds fun. That doesn't sound too bad to me.
Does it even
I'm not
sound?
sure.
Do you think that's real?
I don't know. Brad Binkley.
No,
put
I
it
don't.
out.
No, I'm not saying like. What I mean is, do you think what's coming out in the trial is real? Like or do you think this is just a show trial? Like,
It
all
definitely
fake?
could be a show. I think it was all a show. I think Alex Jones' trial was a show. There was just things that happened in there that made no fucking sense. Now, I'm not saying they aren't coming after his money, but I mean, like when his lawyer sends the prosecution all these files,
So crazy.
and he's like, "Can I use this?" And the lawyer's like, "Oh, I don't know." And
He
it's
should
just
get
like,
he should get a new trial just for that. Just, I mean, you would, anybody else would.
it
That's
was
unbelievable.
absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I can take you on a little. I'll take you on a small rabbit hole with P Diddy. This is what a lot of people haven't looked into. P Diddy was doing his dirty deeds apparently on St Bart's Island. We talked about it at the start. All of these guys. It's right near Epstein Island. He's also pictured with a lady called Rachel Chandler Guinness. Now, he was in business with the Guinness family and they had a big fallout earlier. I think it was early this year or early last year. And the Guinness family are a very rich and wealthy family. So once that started, it seemed to kick off with all this investigate Diddy. Now, Rachel Chandler Guinness, married into the Guinness family, but as Rachel Chandler, she was very much involved with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Rachel Chandler Guinness got married, and in their marriage, it was a weird wedding, because they had a guy dressed as a white rabbit bouncing around for the whole thing. Now, this is all weird stuff that these do. It's all symbolic. So she is deeply involved with them. She's in with Epstein. She's seen with P. Diddy. And then she marries into the Guinness family. The Guinness family are in business with P. Diddy. They have a fallout, and suddenly he's in court and all of his dirty deeds are coming out. That he was doing on St. Bart's, which is an island that Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein went to. Abramovich owns a lot of properties there. And this is also where that Abercrombie and Fitch guy was doing his dirty stuff. Right near St. James Island, right in the Caribbean islands, near Virgin Islands. There's something weird going on here. And even more weird was there is an old Rockefeller mansion on that island, right on the shore, so submarines could get there. And there was a couple, go on YouTube it, look, Rockefeller Mansion, guys, YouTube it, and they go round it, this couple around it, and they find, and I guarantee this, a white stuffed rabbit there. It's an abandoned mansion. They find it in one of the rooms. Symbolic everywhere. It's really weird. So there's something going on here down the rabbit hole with all of this stuff that's way beyond what they were doing in terms of just trafficking these women. I go back to the start. I think they were doing something with these women's eggs. I think they were harvesting these female eggs for this transhumanist agenda.
Is this it? Is this top video here? This St. Bart's chilling abandoned Rockefeller mansion tour? Is that it?
I think that might be it. Yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit in there. It's a couple. Right, fairly towards the end, and I'm not sure if it's just yeah, I think it's
abandoned.
So just go. Yeah, it's quite far along. You saw the checkerboard floor there.
So I could just move in there.
It's round about here somewhere. They see it at the top, and they find a white stuffed rabbit, I believe.
Oh, there it is. Hold on, there it is.
You see it? Did you see it?
Yeah.
There it is.
That's crazy.
Whoa.
What's that doing in a Rockefeller mansion?
That's so
On
strange.
St. Bart's.
Imagine being so rich and just abandon a mansion. You see that a lot in like Atlanta too. Like all these rappers, they go broke and they just get rid of their mansions and they just sit there and no one can afford to buy them. Just crazy, dude.
And they won't. I guarantee you, they won't sell it to anybody. You know, if someone offered like, "Hey, I'll take it for $1." You know, just let me fix it up. I guarantee you, they're like, "Fuck you, bitch." Do you know what I mean? Like, they just wouldn't do it.
The island, they'd have to sell you the island.
Yeah, they could lease it to you for $1 or something. You see that rich people will do it with other rich people, but not for somebody that would come in there. Because you see it. Like I was watching this. This guy has this YouTube channel about he likes to go and find old aircraft and see if they'll start, you know, and buy them for cheap. And there was this old Elvis Presley jet that he thinks was used by the CIA as like in a sting operation to find people who were scamming people out of their money.
Yeah.
But this jet had been sold like a dozen times from rich guy to rich guy for $1. Because
that's
I don't
so
know, if it's like
crazy.
money laundering or something. They could use it as like,
That's
very curious.
That's how Jeffrey Epstein got one of those mansions. Didn't sell it for like $1, or like a trade for $1.
And then by the time it finally got to a regular person, it was being billed for what it was worth. But all these rich corporation people had passed it around for $1, and you could see it on the title.
Well, you don't pay taxes on that. What are the taxes on $1?
Well, you still pay the property tax, I guess, but that would be it. You wouldn't, you wouldn't have to pay any.
Well, they do a lot of the money laundering through paintings. That's why he was so involved in painting.
Oh yeah.
Do you know another thing they can do with paintings? There's a certain type of paint that they can store data in.
Really?
The paint itself. Yeah.
So crazy deep. It's so crazy deep, dude.
mad, isn't it? Mad world. It's a whole different world going on here that we don't know about. And Abramovich, by the way, pretty much runs St. Bart's, and he's in with Putin. So there you go.
It's crazy. Richard, always a pleasure to have you on. You crush it. Tell them one more time where they can find you.
You can find the video work on iconic.com, WTF Rich, so WTAF Rich on X, and Substack, Richard.Willet on Substack, and you'll just find me on there on my articles. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Lovely to chat with you all.
Anytime, buddy. All right, let's break down the episode. All right, let's get into it. Richard Willet came in, dropped the hammer. Always a great conversation. Always a great conversation. That stuff about Epstein and George Church DNA data store, like, where are the lists? Oh, it's in Epstein's DNA. And now there's all this stuff about Epstein still being alive. That's being dragged out, which is more chaos, so no one knows what's happening. It's just we are in a foobar war. That's what it is. Everything
well,
is
imagine the fight if he is dead, though. Imagine, because his DNA still, is extant. You can draw DNA from a corpse. Imagine the fight over that corpse. If there's that shit's embedded in his DNA.
Oh shit! I never even thought about
the reason they would want to keep that off the books, right?
I mean, and if they have his DNA, can't you just clone him? Can't you just make another Epstein in general?
Can't you make another person with an egg dick?
Use anybody to do that. Wait, was that Epstein or was that
Epstein had an egg dick.
Oh, but that was also what's his name? The
Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, Weinstein.
Wait up.
No, but he had them in China. They said it was like weird.
No. His balls were stuck to his thigh because he had like
Well, that happens to everybody sometimes when it's so sweaty. Yeah.
But so you're saying Epstein wasn't carrying no type of weight. He wasn't no heat. Wearing no heat.
I don't know what you think I'm saying.
You said that.
Am I saying that I don't think Epstein was packing?
Yeah. Do you think he was or wasn't?
Well, it was in the depositions, right, where the guy asked,
supposedly had an egg dick.
Sir, that you have an egg-shaped penis, and they
all right, my client's out of here.
Yeah,
let's go. I mean, dude, just imagine having like an egg dick.
Well, you know what I was thinking, like, what could that be? I bet he had a really tiny one, and he got an implant.
Oh, God, Johnny. Oh,
they inject shit into your dick, bro.
It is really crazy that they haven't made huge advancements in big dick technology.
They got to work on that, bro.
I mean, they're working on AIs. They're working on time
Would you
machines.
Okay, so they cut John Bobbitt. His dick got cut off, right? That's his name, right? John Bobbitt. Was that his name? I can't remember. Anyway, Bobbitt's dick got cut off, and they reattached it, and it worked. He did like zombie dick porn. So that begs the question, right? Could you take a dick off a huge dick corpse, stick it on yourself, dick transplant?
Yeah, but isn't it something about blood is different? And
well, that's why, but you would have to be like any other transplant. You'd have to match blood type and that kind of thing. And
no, here's what it is.
Immunosuppressant.
Clones, they fix it. You get so the clone has all your biometrics and whatever you need. Well, and they make it, and you just have a fat hog.
Well, what about when we get in this era of CRISPR tech where you can have a designer baby? What are you going to dial in for the dick size for your boy?
Over 8?
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point it becomes like a hindrance, like 10 inches plus. Then you got problems.
I think women need to start getting honest about dick size, and we it's just like, okay, 7, 8, is that good? Is it girth? What is it?
Well, you got a lot of wide set vaginas, as Larry David said.
Women don't want to talk about that. They always want to make it about dicks.
Remember that?
Back when I watched porn 6 days ago. You remember those days? 6 days ago. So you just see chicks taking these giant hammers like it was nothing. And you're like, oh, because you got a wide set vagina and you're built for hammers.
Or you had a baby. It happened.
Yeah.
Blows that shit out, dog.
That's true. That's gonna be XG's next guest on the show. Pregnant porn stars. We dig dick though. We dig deep. Some guys, Johnny, can you go to the real quick? Can you go to the Apple comments on this?
On what? On this
5-star reviews? Yeah.
On tinfoil hat.
Yeah.
What's the review? And Sam's already smiling. What did it say?
You want me to read it?
Yeah, please.
All right. Hold on. Which one? How long? How far back?
It involves Xavier Guerrero.
4.6. We got to up that rating a little bit. Help us out.
Come on,
Never.
guys.
It's too old. It's been around too long.
Uh,
Okay, it's the second one.
Second one, great show, but Sam still needs his training wheels. All I have to say is it's a great show, except Sam, you treat XG so mean. I actually appreciate his questions, even though you think they aren't as good, and you give him guff all the time. Give him guff. Is this real? Also, Sam, let your guests speak more. Just as this is a 5-star review, by the way. Just as they are making a great point, you interrupt, but mostly leave XG alone. He's a great addition to the show, and his input is valid and appreciated. Signed, XG. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to read that part. This was from Pete.
There's an XG army out there.
There's an XG army out there.
15632.
It's just all the Mexicans. Be careful, guys.
I have noticed that the people who say that it's like a Latin thing. Yeah, I have noticed that.
It is a Latin thing.
People that don't realize we all talk shit to each other on this show.
Yeah, everybody
We are
gets
in real
shit
life.
equally. Everyone
I
gets
mean, I
shit.
get called a faggot all the time.
Never on camera, though. Never on camera.
Well, okay. Yeah. I mean, I've
Never on camera.
got many BS demonetized.
Should we show them our thread, our message thread, Johnny? How
What?
did this faggot get thrown in there on our
Oh,
thread?
come on, bro.
What are you, narking us, dude?
What are you, narking?
Hey, Sam, you're being negative here. You're giving him guff. I won't stand
guff.
for you giving XG any guff anymore.
What guff? I haven't heard guff in a while. What's guff?
Yeah, that's because you're not an 80-year-old man like Pete
Guff.
here. Guff.
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 Okay.
Stop
Now
giving me
people
guff, guys.
now people are calling me a conspiracy theory, an intelligence op because I said that stuff on Joe Rogan. And what they're idiots
That's
is that
so funny.
I never said I talked to intelligence agents because I don't talk to intelligence
Mel
agents.
K said that.
Mel K said she did. You dumb fucking retard. Unbelievable.